Okay, can you see me? Unfortunately, yes you can. So, it's been over 2 years since I purchased the Sterling Faceter. So it's about time I gave it a good going over, had a look at it, serviced it, preventative maintenance, gave it a clean up. And it might be interesting for those of you who have a Sterling Faceter or who are thinking of getting one, this machine from Sri Lanka, because you can then see how it's made, how strong it is, which it really is, and how to maintain it and look after it. So, as I said, over 2 years now, done a lot of gems with it, a lot of faceting, a few mistakes, and let's see how it's held up. So we're going to strip it down together, have a look at the components, make sure everything is okay. Very straightforward construction. This little tap is just a very simple valve, little spring. I put some WD-40 on the spring every now and again and give it a clean, and that's it. That's all you need to do with that. So what I'm going to do is bring you down onto the machine and let's have a look at it together. Now, before I go messing with it, I'm going to turn it off so we don't electrocute ourselves. And the first thing I'm going to do is twist this all the way off. I've not done this before, but I'm assuming it's a simple screw mechanism which is very sturdy, which will enable me to have a look, tip it up, and there we go. So down the middle there you can see a screw which is connected to this brass knob simply via an Allen key, with a table that's put on there, 2 bolts. There's no wear because, as I said, simple construction. We'll have a look at this post, clean it off and re-grease it. And I think that's pretty much all you'll need to give this a good going over, is clean and degrease. This has gone up and down thousands of times. It's keyed there. Now I'm going to lift you off. So I don't know how much of that you can see, but it's basically threaded. And keyed. And you can see a big screw in there. So that's a nice straightforward and well constructed plate. Bit grubby, but now it's off, we can give it a clean. Put you back now. WD-40 to clean it off on the bottom. You can see why these things last years. Now if you are tempted to undo this and remove the plate, you'd have to reset up everything again. In other words, balance the handpiece to the level of the table, but there's no need to do that. What there is need though is to re-grease the post. Normal grease will do. What I've got here is some lithium grease. And we'll just lay some in the thread. Good for another couple of years. This is obviously steel of some sort, so what it will do is also protect it from any corrosive bits and pieces. And if you figure out what this is used for, it's used for cutting gems. Gems are very hard. It produces a lot of water, because water is used as a lubricant, and that's got to have some abrasive qualities, because what we're using after all is diamond powder to shape gems. Well, diamond powder against steel, no contest, which is good that it's got a shroud over here, therefore it protects it. So what we're going to do now is, I'm going to lower you down a bit. You can see just here that there is a pipe where the water drains from the sump. So I'm pulling off this pipe, and you can see there an awful lot of muck. Clean that off, and what I suggest is a pipe cleaner, and there's a little hole just here where the water drains, and I'm just going to put a pipe cleaner through it. It's brass, so there's no corrosion that's going to happen here. And there we go. Perhaps just a little bit of grease put on there just to protect it. There we go. So I'm going to turn it upside down now and put it on here, hopefully not break anything, and let's have a look and see what's going on underneath. Now, it's heavy. Be aware that it's heavy. Right, I take it you can see that. Just get rid of any cobwebs that we have. Now, that's a belt which has adjustment on these big nuts here. It all seems fine. I don't think there's any sort of chance. No, there's no slipping going to happen there. So I'm going to leave that as it is. That's been 2 years. Perhaps it could do with a bit of adjustment, but no, it's all working fine, so I'm not going to tension it anymore. Fantastically solid construction. This looks like an aluminium. It is. The whole thing is constructed from aluminium, so it's not going to corrode as long as you look after it and keep it clean. Painted, or it has an enamel coating on it. It's beginning to show a bit of wear because it's used all over the place. You can see where the enamel's coming off, but it's straight onto the aluminium, so there's no corrosion there. The motor at the base looks absolutely fine. So after 2 years, nothing to do. So obviously made up of a motor with a couple of pulleys, belt, like a cam belt, same sort of thing you might have in your car to run your fan if you have an old-fashioned car which has a fan belt. It's not quite the same as a timing belt because there's no teeth, it just works on friction. Over here the electrical connectors, obviously not something you want to play with unless you absolutely have to. But it's fine, so it's never had any issues, and one very solid looking motor. So let's turn it on its base again. Try to get some light in there. So what do we have? Big huge motor with controls. This is the digital controls of some sort. Now although it's controlled by a little mechanism just here, rheostat maybe, obviously you can do something on this side, which I'm not going to. We turn it on. Haven't a clue what that does. You can obviously see that it adjusts there. Switch, where's the switch? Here we go. It's telling us what we're doing. Nothing to do. It's all fine. Turn it off. Turn it off. So to the side of the machine now. There's a little switch there, which adjusts the speed. Now this is feeling a little bit peculiar. To 0. And although the switch feels there's a screw in there, so I'm just going to tighten that down. So by tightening down that screw, which was a little bit loose, that switch rheostat is now solid. no more slippage. So that's the only thing we found that's gone a little bit loose after 2 years of solid work. Safety first, a little bit of dust in there. Why am I using WD-40 to clean? Well, because it's got protective qualities. So what do I have to report after 2 years? A couple of enamel chips, bit of dust underneath, nothing to report. It's all absolutely fine. So you can see why these machines are used a lot, because it's so solid. So let me just show you in here. I'll watch that. There we go. Right, hopefully you can see properly in there. So this is the business end, this is where it gets filthy dirty, and it could be cleaner, but I do tend to clean this up after every gem that I facet, and if you scrub it, perhaps a little bit more of this enamel will come off, so it's fine, there's no dirt there. And what I do clean this with again is WD-40, because it's got protective qualities. A little bit of very small surface corrosion coming in on the inside of that plate, but just staining. No, everything's good. Saw that, didn't you? Shouldn't have touched that mast, but it smoothed in the grease. So all we have to do now is connect back up this pipe, which is literally a push fit, and that goes into a water collecting bucket, I suppose, or whatever you want to collect the water in. And what we can do now is put this back on. And just start screwing, and down it goes. So after 2 years, this is still in perfect working order with no apparent wear at all. One little screw on the speed control, revolutions control, whatever you want to call it, had to be tightened, but other than that, perfect. So what I'll do is also we'll strip down the handpiece in a minute and have a look and see if there's anything that needs to be done on that. This is fared very, very well. The only thing that fell off was the leather leather handheld area that came off, got a bit damp and a bit worn, so we bought some leather online and cut it to shape and stuck it on, so that's absolutely fine. The wooden bit's still there. The paint is well and truly, or the enamel is well and truly come off, which I expect after 2 or 3 years worth of continual use. I could paint it again, but underneath is solid aluminium, so and of course brass construction, so there's no need to do that, and it's absolutely fine, still accurate. I have balanced it 3 or 4 times, when a gem's gone a bit awry, and it does need balancing, I guess perhaps every 6 months, or when you think that a gem hasn't cut properly, worth having a look. But still good, absolutely good. And I've seen these looking absolute wrecks and still cutting perfect gems. But keeping it clean and lubricated is a good idea, but I'll strip that down in a second and we'll have a look. A final thing to do is just a little bit of grease here and on the plate, or on the round bit of metal that the actual plate sits on. This could corrode it if you ignored it, but I don't. I oil it every now and again. And there we are, good to go. Right, handpiece. We'll sort that out in a second. So the other very important part of the system is this handpiece. Start by unscrewing just here on the tensioning nut for the angle. Remove the washer. All very straightforward. Now what we need to do is get an Allen key and just undo this bit here. Okay, pull, and that's it separate, so we'll put that aside. And looking at this, simple construction, just give it a clean. You can see that they've engineered a harder steel bearing in there and pushed it in. It's a push fit. Oh, sorry, there we go. Hopefully you can see. It's a push fit bearing. So that surface needs to be greased. A little bit of grease on the side as well so it slides easier, and in the slider. It's all very clean. Just put that aside a second and concentrate on what we've got here. So how to check this out and strip it down. Again, Allen keys. To remove, there we go. You can get different, I can't remember what they're actually called now, but you can get different settings, you can get different angles on here. This is a 96, I believe you can get a 64 as well, and maybe others. And theoretically, being clever not to lose. Go. Tight fit. There we go. So as you can see, this has basically got a flat surface there, which that little screw attaches into. Not a lot to maintain there. And then unscrew the back to get the chuck out. Now you can see that's greased. I do grease that regularly. But I ran out of grease recently, so I used Vaseline. So let's just clean off the Vaseline and we'll put some grease in the chuck. Again, pipe cleaners will come in very handy here. Just bend it over a couple of times. And that's clean. We could undo these two, but there's no need. I've never undone that bearing, but it's smooth, it's taut, so no point in disturbing that. The other thing you can undo, and be aware that sometimes this pin, which locates on the wheel, can begin to wear a little bit from side to side. So what I have done is squeeze that bearing together just the once, which makes the angle that you set slightly more accurate. So put some grease in here. And on the chuck. You can see the chuck is keyed. And you can see that there's a pin down there, or you could if the grease wasn't in the way. Swivel it until it locates. And we're in. And then simply reassert the screw on the back. There we go. No movement, nice and smooth. So to reattach the index wheel, I can see where the little screw is. So I'm just lining it up, pushing it on, and locating it home. Let's line it up just to make sure. 96. Lines up with that chuck angle just there. It's got 3 cuts, and that's how I know it's accurately in there. Just tighten down. Good to go. So we'll just grease up this surface here. Grease up that nut. Grease up that thread. Put it together. Beautifully smooth. No movement. I have done another video where I've totally stripped this down into its smallest elements. If you wish to see how to do that, just check out the other video. So not a lot of wear on this either after 2 and a bit years of hardish use. It would help if I put that washer on the right way. Serrated edge so it grips. There we go. The markings perhaps are a little bit worn. That would easily be solved with putting a little bit of blacking in there and then cleaning it off, but I can quite clearly see those. But that might help. You could make that part of your maintenance regime. But all fine, all of it ready to go for another few years, if not 10 or 20. As I said, it's built extremely solidly, so simply that's it. I hope you've enjoyed that. We've had a good look at the machine after 2 and a bit years worth of use. We've greased up and lubricated and serviced what we need to. There's nothing complicated to service. The only complicated thing comes where if you were taking the plate off, or if you were stripping this down totally to its smallest elements, you would need to rebalance the handpiece, because if you take this off it might not quite sit as it used to before, so you'd have to just go through the process of rebalancing. See my other video for that. I hope you've enjoyed this and found it useful. For anybody who's looking to buy a machine, I can thoroughly recommend this. There are different types of machine, but if you want a handpiece machine which is going to last you forever, can't go wrong. Brilliant. The Sterling Faceter. Thanks for watching. And of course, please like and subscribe.